Hey there, and welcome to pages 200 through 250, book club for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Last time we were just getting started with the fishing trip. Candy, one of McMurphy's friend girls, I guess we'll call her, arrives at the hospital, and she's supposed to have a second person with her, Sandy, but Sandy does not show up. She gets caught up in a guy that she's supposed to marry. So it's just Candy, and there's an issue there because there's not enough drivers to get the acutes and everybody to the fishing boat. And so we're trying to work through that right now with Nurse Ratchet and McMurphy. And we learned that McMurphy's going to be out a lot of money if they don't complete the fishing trip because it cost a lot of money, but also McMurphy's making money from the guys on this trip. He's skimming a little bit of extra cash from the guys, which, he's kind of done that the whole time he's been here, right? He's a gambler, he's a hustler, and he wants to make a little extra cash. Now, they get the doctor to agree with them with a little help from Candy, and we can see on page 201, when they're making their ways out to the cars, Chief describes how the patients are still a little uneasy about leaving the hospital and how they're not sure how it's going to go, and that it does look like a windy day and the sea may be rough, and it would just be so much easier to go back inside and to just stay at the hospital where it's safe and familiar. And I can relate to this fairly well as well. I know sometimes if I'm going to go to it doesn't even have to be like a party or something, just like a social event, you could call it, like maybe go someplace with I have one friend there, but I may not know a lot of other people. It can be a little daunting to have to meet all these new people and have to think of things to talk about, which, small talk can be easy for some, harder for others. Sometimes it's hard for me. You want to avoid that awkward silence or whatever it's going to be. And, I think to myself, maybe it would just be easier just to, sit back and not do anything, just stay at home and be safe and be comfortable. But you kind of gotta push yourself, especially these acutes. If one day they want to leave the hospital, they're gonna have to go out into the real world and face things that they don't want to face, and to have to interact with other people. And that's the only way that they can get familiarized with the world. And we have to do the same thing. Sometimes it's a lot of work putting things together, and you're not like, maybe it's not worth it. But a lot of times you get a group of people together, or you go to that event, and you can enjoy yourself. And it's not easy, but I think it's well worth it. And most human beings, we like to be independent, but we are, I'd say, social creatures in nature, and getting that social interaction will actually really benefit you if you put yourself out there and you try it. It can be tough, and I still struggle with it, but I know sometimes you just have to do things that you don't want to do, and it's probably for the better for yourself. So yeah, they go into town, they get the gas and all that stuff. People treat them like loonies, which does not make them feel good. But McMurphy kind of stands up to people, and everyone kind of joins in. McMurphy's standing up to the gas station clerk, and then all the boys start making jokes about how crazy they are and that they'll rip them to pieces. And I think that can be good. I think this is page 205. I'm going to read from here. He says, he'd shown us what a little bravado and courage could accomplish, and we thought he taught us how to use it. All the way to the coast, we had fun pretending to be brave. What's important there is Chief says that they were pretending to be brave, which comes later on, further down the line when they start trying to get the boat. McMurphy's changing the emotions and, I guess, the disposition of the acutes to try to stand up for themselves and to be comfortable within themselves, to act who they truly are, you know, not like when we read last time, not what people see on the outside, but how they truly are on the inside. And yeah, they are wearing the green uniforms and they look like they're from the nut house, but in actuality, these are some pretty fine people that, you know, you'd want to, I don't know, grab a beer with or something. You know, they seem like really, really nice people that have some troubles. And of course, they check themselves into the hospital. So McMurphy is helping them assimilate into society a little bit more. But the big part is that Chief's just saying that they pretended to be brave. Because on page 208, when the people at the bait house are yelling at Candy and no one stands up for her and they all feel bad about themselves. I mean, Chief even says, I think all their strength went in that bait shop, which was McMurphy. He's the one that, allowed them to have the courage to, either yell at the gas station people or to scare people on the road. But once you have that shield and that armor gone, they all just fell apart, which happens all the time, especially on the internet, right? If you're hiding behind a screen name and not showing yourself, it's easy to call out people and to make fun of them or do whatever. But in person, it can change, and that can be tough. Or maybe you're from the safety of your car and you can honk because you think you have that shield of armor in front of you with your car. But as soon as you step out of that car, there's nothing between you and another person or another thing or another animal. And it's hard to maintain who you were before. And we definitely see that. So Chief was correct about them pretending to be brave. But, maybe they will change themselves later on in the novel. So they get on the fishing boat. I actually really loved reading about all the fishing that they were doing and catching all the fish and George steering the boat. It was really enjoyable and refreshing to be outside the hospital, which I'm sure it was refreshing and enjoyable. Obviously, you learned that in the book that everyone loved going on the fishing trip, and it was a good thing for them all to do. Okay, so page 214. This is describing, the fish are on the boat and Scanlan's trying to pick it up with Billy, and it's knocking people here and there. It's going crazy. George runs the boat into a log and kills the engine, and people are looking for help and they're looking to McMurphy, but McMurphy just leans against the cabin and he laughs. And Chief describes it as, he keeps laughing and laughing, and he says, and I quote, "Because he knows you have to laugh at the things that hurt you just to keep yourself in balance, just to keep the world from running you plumb crazy. He knows there's a painful side. He knows my thumb smarts and his girlfriend has a bruised breast and the doctor's losing his glasses. But he won't let that pain blot out the humor, no more and he'll let the humor blot out the pain." And that's also another, I'd say, important part of life. Excuse me. I would say I'm pretty good about laughing in terrible situations. I remember one time we were on a lake and we were on a boat and my dad was driving it and we marooned the boat. So he accidentally got too close to shore and it hit sand and we couldn't go anywhere because if we turned on the engine would just be full of sand and we would have been in a lot of trouble ruining the boat that way. And so somehow, I forget how, but the firefighters came, like Coast Guard, something like that, some rescue thing. They had a boat there, but they didn't want to get too close to shore because they would become marooned too. So we had to get out of the boat and walk and swim all the way to the other boat and get on theirs, and they brought us back home. And we were able to free our other boat without having to, ruin the engine. I think my older brothers were able to push it back from shore and out into the lake to get it away from the sea. But, it was cold, it was dark, and it sucked. But we're able to laugh about it to this day, thinking about that time. My grandma, she left her phone in her pocket, and so her phone was ruined. So she lost a lot of photos, which was very sad, but also it's just something she laughed about. And you just gotta laugh about some things in life, even if it sucks. Because like Chief says, there is a painful side, but you can't let it blot out the humor. And who was it? It was maybe Joe Rogan or some other comedian. I know that they're saying, like, when they're in the green room or they're in the back, or they're at, or it might have been Jerry Seinfeld, I think. I was watching comedians in cars eating coffee, and they go to diners after shows and stuff, and he always says, I think, yeah, it was definitely Seinfeld, he's like, nothing is off limits for comedians. When they're together, it's 3 a.m., they're at a diner and they're getting food, they're laughing about everything, making jokes about anything. And that's just what they do. They can find the funny in everything, which it's hard sometimes. Some things you can't find the funny in, but a lot of the times there's a funny side to it, and laughing, just takes care of those things sometimes when it's hard and you gotta laugh. Some people have, it was on Modern Family. I remember Claire, the mom, she's laughing at a funeral, but I know several people that have laughed at funerals, including myself. I laughed one time. It's just sometimes that's just how you handle things. I had a teacher in high school. He was a police officer in Florida before he started teaching at my high school, and he said that his very first case was a suicide, and he had to go in there and write down what the room looked like or something. I don't know. He had to go and look at the victim. I know that, or the person, and his supervisors had sent him in there to do that. And when he came out, he saw that they were laughing, and he thought that was quite weird, right? It's a suicide. It was not a very good scene, he said. But he said he remembered learning in the academy that that's just how some people deal with tragedy sometimes, and they just can't help themselves, and they laugh. And I want to say that's like the healthiest thing to laugh about, but it is a way of releasing some bad emotions and to deal with certain things that you need to just lighten the mood about and just make life a little more fun. Okay, so yeah, McMurphy lets the acutes have their fun, getting it all together. And page 220 and 221, McMurphy shows his old hometown, and it's Chief says that he's kind of got this worried look on himself, on not Chief, but on McMurphy, and we're trying to figure out what's going on in his head. And one thing I was trying to figure out what his motivation exactly, McMurphy's motivation, was to get them to go on the fishing trip. And I mean the next few pages the nurse describes it. Page 228 and 229, she points out that McMurphy's bankroll has gone up significantly since he's been here, and the other patients' bankrolls have gone down significantly. So McMurphy, she believes he is sticking around just to make money off people. And then on page 232, he's making even more money because he knows Chief can lift the panel, and Chief does lift the panel. And so people aren't liking McMurphy, and they're agreeing with the nurse because they think he is there just to make money and not to be their friend. And I was trying to wrap my head around this, trying to figure out why he would go on the fishing trip and be friendly to these people. And yes, he is making a lot of money, but well, we gotta go take a step back. So why did he come to the hospital in the first place? We can safely assume it is to escape the work camp that he was at. He gets a warm bed, lots of food, and it's just nice conditions at the hospital, and it's a good escape from the work camp. And he came in acting like his normal self, his hustler, his poker, who is the big loony on the ward. And he, knocks Harding off, and he becomes the big loony, whatever he calls it, something like that. And he is making a lot of money, he's having a lot of fun, but he thinks he's going to get out. He does not know that the nurse is able to control when he escapes the hospital or when he gets to leave the hospital. So so once he figures that out, talking to the ex-football player at the pool, he goes into, well, I'll call it self-preservation mode, right? He decides to remove himself, not act how he was before. He's not gambling. He's not acting out. He's not like making fun of the nurse or doing anything. He's just trying to go steady. And as Cheswick said, like, nobody's blaming him for that. Of course he's going to act that way because, he has his life ahead of him. He wants to self-preserve, and he doesn't want to be at the hospital forever, obviously. So if he was strictly motivated by money, he would continue to gamble, and if he's just trying to make as much money as possible, he would stay there a lot longer than what he was planning. And obviously he wants to get out and go see the world and not be there forever. So that's why he's going into this self-preservation mode. If he wanted to make more money, he would stay. So he's going into this self-preservation mode, and then I'm not sure what it is exactly. I know the nurse, she wants to take away the day room, or the tub room, I guess, as part of the day room, because they made those 2 rooms, and he punches the glass. At that point, he's not motivated by money. At that point, I think he's motivated by being himself. He's not acting like himself when he was in self-preservation mode. He's not joking around, having fun, making fun of everyone, and being kind of like this fun-loving guy. And I think he just had a breaking point, and he couldn't hide who he was anymore. And so I think that's just his inner self breaking out and lashing out and saying, I need to be something different. I need to be who I am. And so I think he is still motivated by money. Obviously, he's making money from the fishing trip, but I think he just wants to be a disruptor of order and chaos, but I think he's being a disruptor of things that he thinks aren't correct. If the nurse was better, as we'll learn later on when he goes to Disturbed, he acts in a different way and he learns something new. But if the conditions were a little bit better and the nurse was a little bit more reasonable, I think he would be acting slightly different from how he was. He's never one, I would not think, in his life to take orders from the man, or in this case, the woman. And he's always trying to go against the grain. But also I think he's a reasonable person who wouldn't, try to overthrow something that isn't unreasonable. But obviously the nurse is unreasonable. So I think at this point he's motivated by making a little bit of money, but also I think he's trying to help the acutes become better people themselves, and to acclimate more into the world, to give them something that they haven't had in their life, a friendly person who's treating them like a normal human being. And I think McMurphy I think he wants to prove that his way is better than the nurse's way as well. I think he wants to prove that she is not treating these patients correctly, and that there's other way of doing things. And his way is making them become braver, acclimate to the world better, and he wants to be, I think, there for the patients. Now, page 234 through 238, McMurphy and Chief, McMurphy stands up for George, who doesn't want to be cleaned, and Chief, helps him out. By the use of McMurphy's words, I don't think he's motivated just by helping out George. I think he wants to help out George and protect him, but I also think he was just looking to fight. I think he just wanted to fight the aides and to try to hurt them and to get something out that's inside of him that he's been bottling up. Him breaking the glass is the same thing. It's just coming out. And so I don't think he's totally motivated, even though Chief thinks, I think Chief said, like, what exactly did Chief say? On 234, he says, and why'd we'd all been wrong about McMurphy. I think he does want to help George, but I think he's also motivated by hurting the aides, and there's a little hatred in his heart for them. And then on page 240, we learn that the disturbed ward nurse, I guess she's Japanese. They use a different term there, but I believe she's Japanese. She treats them much nicer and like a normal person, and McMurphy treats her with respect. Respect is given, and so you give respect back. And she understands that Nurse Ratched is not a good person, as far as, well, maybe she is, but the way that she runs her ward is described as not being healthy by the Japanese nurse, or I guess which is called the disturbed ward nurse. So the disturbed ward nurse does not agree with the way Nurse Ratched runs her ward, and she knows that the aides are cruel people who don't have the best intentions for the patients, because she even names, which one was it? Was it Washington, or was it one of the other ones? But she knows that on Nurse Ratched's ward, things are not, is it Warren or Williams or Washington? One of them, the nurse was saying. But the things on Nurse Ratched's ward are not great, and they're not perfect, and she could be going about them in different ways. And then page 242, Nurse Ratched comes to McMurphy, and he has a choice. He can do the shock therapy, or he doesn't have to, as long as he apologizes. And that self-preservation that he was having before goes out the window. He wants the shock therapy. This point, he's definitely not motivated by money, because he's not earning anything here. He's just hurting himself. But he is also helping his cause as far as getting the acutes to see that McMurphy believes in something which is going against Nurse Ratched and her ways, and to try to prove, I don't know, whether to keep his pride or to show that he's brave, or that she is not a god that they should be obeying down to and doing everything that she says, especially if they're checked in on their own, right? Very few people are committed. And so they shouldn't have to live by her word and everything that she says. And so I'm sure it's a mixture of all three: his pride, his need to show like bravery, and to just, I guess, I don't know, motivate the patients. And also, I think he just really he just cannot give in to the Nurse Ratched. He just can't. It's not in his nature to give up. He's very stubborn. And I think that's doing it. And then on page, when Chief is about to undergo, on page 244, the electroshock therapy, I'm surprised that he doesn't hear ringing in his ears. He's anticipating fear, and he doesn't hear the ringing. He's a little bit scared, or he is scared and he is nervous, but he doesn't hear the ringing like he did before, when he thought McMurphy was going to do something bad and then he punched the glass. So I think there's definitely changing in Chief, and we find out page 246 through 249, but especially on 249, Chief says that you can get lost in the shock for a long time. After getting shocked, you can sit there for weeks or months, or sometimes even years, but you can fight it, and he fought it off really quickly. And he came out of it, and he said he wouldn't get lost in the fog again. And I think he's, his father's name was Pine that stands tallest on the mountain. And I think Chief wants to, he's having all these flashbacks when he was getting shocked. But he's having all these flashbacks, and I think he wants to be more like his father, and to stand strong and to fight against this machine that's working against them. I guess that's it. So thank you very much. And I'll see you for the last 31 pages, pages 250 through 281.